Traveling to Amsterdam during COVID and you wondering what not to do, what you can do, and how to get around? Then keep watching.
3 weeks ago, we made that video. But things are always changing like the Dutch weather. So in this video, we share with you the latest corona updates in the Netherlands to keep you in the loop. Hello boys and girls and everyone in between, this is Rachel from Who is Amsterdam Tours. We've been guiding thousands of travelers since 2018 and now we're here to help you Amsterdam adventurers to get around like a pro. In our last video, we got lots of questions like quarantine, do I need a negative test result? Is the red light district still here? Well, we're here to answer all of that and more. And of course, things are always changing, so we recommend checking out the link in our description below to get the latest. We also have a free 24-hour Amsterdam itinerary to help you get started. You can download that for free in our link in our description below as well, so go there. And hey, if you haven't already, hit subscribe and that notification bell to get our awesome Amsterdam content. So, are you ready? This is a lengthy one, so let's dive into it. Fewer folks in the hospital and more vaccinated people mean one thing: the next step to freedom. Since 26 June 2021, the Netherlands took the next step in reopening. With the introduction of the EU Digital COVID Certificate, things are changing rapidly, my friends. So here are the main changes and our answers to your burning questions. Traveling these days is a whole new different ball game. There's so many hoops to jump through and changes happening all the time. So guys, basically you need to remember there are 3 categories of travelers. Category is travelers from a safe country, travelers from a high-risk area, and travelers from a very high-risk area. So which area do you fall under? Check it out in the link below before you travel because it's always getting updated. Alright guys, before we get too excited, we have to remember we're in a global pandemic. There is currently an EU entry ban happening. If you're from a safe country, no problem, book that flight, you're always welcome to travel. But if you're from a high-risk area, I have good news for you. Those of you who are fully vaccinated are exempted from this entry ban from 1st of July. But if you're traveling from a very high-risk area, then you can only travel to the Netherlands and the EU if your trip falls under an exemption category. You can check out the link in our description below to find out more about that. Okay, now we're gonna answer some questions. So Manuel asked, I was wondering if I need to do a COVID-19 test when entering the country. Thanks Manuel for your question. So the answer to your question is, it depends on where you're traveling from and whether you're fully vaccinated. If you're traveling from a safe country, that means you don't have to show any negative test results, proof of vaccine, or a proof of recovery. If you're traveling from a high-risk or very high-risk area, you must always show a negative test result, even if you're fully vaccinated. But hey, that only applies to people who are 13 and above. So if you're a child watching this, go to bed, you're okay. Ooh, okay guys, this is a little bit confusing because on the Dutch government website it says travelers from outside the EU do not have to show a negative test result if they have proof of vaccination. Proof of recovery is not enough to exempt them from the negative test result requirement. What does it mean? If you're from a safe country, you don't have to show anything. If you're from a high risk or a very high risk area, then you always have to show a negative test results according to this website, unless you're a child below 13. But in this case, we really recommend that you check out the website in the description below and call the number. If you scroll all the way down, there's a contact part on the right side. Call them and make sure that you get updated on which country and category you belong under, because things are changing so quickly and which rules apply to you. Alright, if you're wondering which kind of test results are accepted here, FYI, self-test results are not accepted here. You gotta take an NAAT or PCR test no more than 72 hours before arrival or an antigen test no more than 48 hours before arrival. And if you're flying to the Netherlands, you gotta make sure you have a health declaration form filled before you fly. You can find that form in the link in our description below. Let's talk about Vax, baby. JB asked, are entry tests also required for vaccinated people? That's a great question, JB. Like we said earlier, if you're from a high risk or very high risk area, it doesn't matter if you're fully vaccinated or not, you have to show a negative test result, unless you're 12 years old and under. If you're from a safe country, don't need that. Carlos said, nice video, but you didn't take on things like mandatory quarantines. Well, Carlos, sorry about that, but this one's for you. At the time of this recording, here's the deal. If you're flying from a safe country, of course, you don't need to quarantine. If you're coming from a high-risk area within the EU and you can show proof of vaccination, recovery, or a negative test result, or the EU digital COVID certificate for our European friends, you don't have to quarantine. If you're coming from a high-risk area outside of the EU, here's the thing, a proof of recovery is not enough and you're advised to quarantine. But if you have proof of vaccination or negative test result, you don't have to. If you're coming from a very high-risk area, then you would always have to show a negative test result and a quarantine declaration form. You have to fill it out before your trip. If you don't have the form, then when you come here and you get caught, the fine is 95 euros. So you can find the form in the description below and fill it in because you don't want to have to pay 95 euros. So how long must you quarantine for? When you get to the Netherlands, you must self-quarantine for 10 days. If you get tested negative on day 5, then guys, you don't have to quarantine no more. Yeah! Alright. Tim asks, are COVID tests free for tourists and where can I do one? Yes, Tim. COVID tests are free for tourists and anyone experiencing symptoms. You can get tested at the GGD Amsterdam, or in Dutch, GGD. Try it, GGD. That is the Public Health Service of Amsterdam. You can call them to make an appointment and usually you can get it tested within 48 hours at one of their testing locations. And when you call them, just stay on the line a little bit because the first part is in Dutch, but don't worry, it switches to English. So all the information on how to call them to make an appointment is in the link in our description below, so just check it out. Okay, we have another question from Men's. Men's asks, does a vaccination or recovery certificate count to go to bars or restaurants? Are clubs opening again in July? We have great news for you, Men's. No vaccination or recovery cert is required at bars and restaurants or even clubs because like Heidi Klum said,
you're either in or out. And if you're in, you're in.
So when you're in the Netherlands or in Amsterdam, you don't need those things. And we have very good news for you guys. Everything is open again. From museums, clubs, theaters, bars and restaurants, you can once again enjoy these fine places. And yes, our red light district is also open and still at the same old spot, at least for a couple more years. So that's the answer to your questions, Mohammed Ka and Armageddon. And Jenny also asked, can tourists still visit coffee shops? Jenny, the answer is yes! And so I want to advise you to walk in there with confidence, get the delicious cup of coffee with a side of Amsterdam's finest greens. Okay, we have one last question from Ruya. My family is going to Amsterdam, but we have 7 people in our family. Will we still be able to visit restaurants and museums? The answer is yes. Woo! Hallelujah! So you can wine and dine with your entire clan with no worries at all. And there's more! Say goodbye to those pesky masks indoors, but don't burn your face bras just yet. Masks are still required in tight spaces like airplanes and public transportation, etc. Social distancing is also still in motion, so keep 1.5 meters, aka 4.92 feet away and avoid busy areas. Alright guys, so we hope that this video was helpful to you. And if you made it to the end, seriously, I want to give you a standing ovation right now because that was a pretty long one. So don't forget to keep yourself updated on the Dutch government website using the links in our description below because things are always changing and we really want to help you to get the most out of your stay. And that's why we created the free 24-hour itinerary that you can download for free using also the link in our description below. And don't forget, hit subscribe and the notification bell to get the most updated and awesome Amsterdam content from us. So once again, my name is Rachel from Who is Amsterdam Tours. I want to wish you a great time and I'll see you in our next video. Doei!